Okay. So we're here doing book 3 of Aristotle's Politics. And here again, I'm just giving you some highlights here to look at. I'd like for you to read both through the text. And the reason for this is because this is how you understand who Aristotle is. Later on in the Middle Ages, Renaissance and stuff, they'll call him the philosopher. Many people throughout history, Aristotle says, and the thing is that Aristotle's, I think, his humility, his true self comes only from reading how the text works. Posing things different back and forth, jumping into historical examples, jumping into different places and comparing different places and speculating and throwing out things that people are going to ask. This is not a sermon or something. This is not some well-argued book. This is a very humble book, and I think you understand the brilliance of Aristotle by understanding him in the context of how he struggles. So you'll feel it because it's hard to, make a clear-cut case out of this. But on the other hand, is the hopefully I can show you here is the basic stuff. So here, book 3 what's a state? We had in book 1, it was the household. And he'll come back to the household and make some comparisons here. But the household is different than a state. Okay, so here with book 3, we go to what is the state? And he'll deal with the state from the rest of the way on. And he's talking about the state in terms of a city-state, what we call a polis. Or, he'll, and sometimes you'll see it translated as just a city. But he's talking about, something different. Whereas in a family, things are, it's a royalty system. And it's that 3-part interesting royalty system of labor and management, family, parents over children, and then husband and wife in some form of constitutional legal relationship among equals. Now we're into a situation where, now it's the one, the few, the many. This is where we become more familiar with the Republican system. So what is a state? Okay, and typical of him is you jump straight from what is a state down to what is a citizen. There are citizens who compose it, and so who is the citizen? And this is going to become crucial because he's going to emphasize popular sovereignty here. Okay, and then this is where you see it. This is the beauty of Aristotle. There are differences of opinion. Okay, so he's going to launch into his. All right, and his definition basically comes over here. But the citizen, whom we are seeking to define for our purposes, is the citizen in the strictest sense, against whom no such exceptions can be taken, and that he shares in the administration of justice and offices. So this, would come down to being on juries, all sorts of things. And notice that he talks about term limits here. There's these term limits of time. Doesn't really go into it, but good stuff here to get us started. Now, if we keep, don't let that happen. Okay, so we keep moving along here, and I'd just like you to notice as he continues to struggle with citizen, and notice that here that the parents are citizens. Okay, grandparents, and he'll get over here to father and the mother. So born of a father or a mother. And so we're talking women's citizenship here. It's awkward and it's there, but he doesn't develop it. It's one of those things he just sort of slides through. And notice, like when he jumps to this, he'll jump to a historical example. This is Cleisthenes in Athens. Okay, and you read it. It's it wanders around a bit, and then let's get down into there's a point nearly allied to this proceeding. Okay, which is fun, and then I like a sailor. A citizen is a member of a community. One of the great traditions is the ship of state. And then sailors, all these have these different jobs and stuff. And this is going to be, an interesting situation because a sailboat in many ways is more like a household than a state in terms of mixed government. This is where the confusions will come, and where all sorts of, as you read, because he ends this with talking about the perfect state has this sort of possibility of a monarch, a king, the good man. Okay, so you get into here, and he starts to talk about, he's always in pursuit of goodness. What's the best? How do we pursue this good? And notice down here, okay, this is not the rule of which we're speaking, but the rule of another kind, which is exercised over freedom, equals by birth or constitutional rule. This is what he defined a marriage as, actually, too. And then go down here, and he points out that, where is it? The ruler must learn by obeying, okay? And that he who has never learned to obey cannot be a good commander. This is a very interesting relationship he puts out, like a freeman. You have to obey like a freeman, and then you can rule like a freeman, So this is the role of obedience is not like when you read it in the Bible in these household rules and these state rules. I'm just pointing out here that Aristotle is struggling all the time throughout the whole book to figure out where women fit in. Women are supposed to be silent in that one passage and stuff like this, and then here women are citizens and not, and so lots is going on. Let's keep reading here, and if you get confused, that means you're actually reading well, okay? Because you can't be reading this without getting confused. Okay, but here we get, classifications of government, and of course we get to our, 3 states of government. Where is it? It's true forms of government. There are 3, the one, the few, and the many, okay? And we've become very familiar with this. This is what Darius had said, remember? And it becomes a standard maxim, a standard basis of modern republican government. And very important, there are perversions. So every state of, royalty becomes tyranny. Aristocracy becomes oligarchy. Aristocracy, aristoi is the best. This is the power to the best, and oligarchy is just the rule of the few. You see, things fall apart. And here he goes, constitutional government, which is this rule, life among equals, which is sort of an idyllic thing he talks about, becomes democracy. And democracy is power to the people. And essentially what he means there is mobs, okay? So he'll use democracy in different ways. So it's not always derogatory, but constitutional government to democracy. So basically this fits that what we saw with Herodotus and Ottoni's statement, which is that power corrupts. There's always these perversions, and there's this thing that goes on, a dynamism of movement. Polybius is going to talk about this, and this is written before Polybius, but Polybius, when he goes to the Roman, what you've already seen. Whoop, what happened? There we go. Where'd it go? Back. Boom. Okay, good. Now, let's go on here. I don't want to be too long here. Oh, this is, hey, look at this. But a state exists for the sake of a good life. This is one of the great paragraphs of all time, And the state does not exist for the sake of alliance and security from injustice, nor does it exist to make money or for mutual intercourse. It exists for what? It exists for the good life. It exists for something much higher. And the state, you go over here, this great stuff over here. The state is not a mere society. Okay, this whole section here is great. Established for the prevention of crime and It's not for menial purposes. It's a community. It's a community of well-being in families and aggregations of families. This is that household and state, book 1 and book 3. And then you come down here as created by friendship. And friendship is the motive of society. The end is the good life. And these are the means toward it. The state should be a means toward helping the good life, all right? Which is a happy and honorable life, okay? Yeah, you got to love that. And then, of course, he goes here to the sovereignty of the people. Now, this is a key sort of issue, okay? So this is where he puts out what is something that is very controversial today scientifically and politically, which is that do people think better in groups or by themselves? And it's a huge issue in politics, huge issue in psychology and stuff like this. And he comes down to that people think better in groups. So this is a foundation for why we have juries. 12 people get to decide whether a person is guilty or not. And then it's not the judge, not one person. And then why we have consensual legislatures and stuff like that. The Supreme Court of the United States is not just one judge. It's 9. And you got to get a majority. Why you have that? We'll talk more about this in the class. But this is a deep, important part of the book, which gives the foundations for why we think in groups, okay? The principle of the multitude ought to be supreme rather than a few best is capable of satisfactory explanation. Okay, this is people in a multitude rather than a few making decisions. And it says, for the many of whom each individual is but an ordinary person, when they meet together are very likely better than a few good, and regarded not individually but collectively. And then he does this great line, which is just as at a feast, it's better to have the dinner provided out of a potluck form than a single purse, a single meal. I don't know, maybe not, you don't think so, but it's a great line. And so, sovereignty of the people, the multitude think better collectively when they're in this collective, all right? Let's go on down here, and he really struggles with a lot of stuff. And then he's got to get into this, this stuff about, the one best man, and whether it's right for, a monarchy to fit. And he talks about the Lacedaemonian model, which is going to be the one that the Romans pick up on, which is a limited monarchy. I spelled limited monarchy. Limited, it's a monarchy where power is not absolute. And so that's going to be what the Romans do with their consuls. And this is what we do with, the presidents of the United States and stuff like that. And notice that kings are limited except when they act as commander-in-chief. Okay, so that's one of the deep principles, Okay, so let's go down to 136 here, keeping on move. This is, here again, when he asks the question is always fun, because, this is, so many people ask it, is not the rule of the many better, and he is going to go yes to this answer, but he's going to go back and forth with the monarchy. Here's the advocates of royalty maintain, okay, and hence it follows, that they're what they're saying. And then he answers himself in the paragraph, yet surely the ruler cannot dispense with the general principle which exists in the law. And is a ruler above the law? And no, a ruler should be dispassionate, and if a ruler is dispassionate, the law is dispassionate. And so therefore a ruler should follow the law. Okay? And that's it. And when the law cannot determine the point, should we, go to a single person? And he says, no, the state is made up of many individuals, and as at a feast, that potluck in which all the guests could contributed to the banquet better than a single man, so the multitude is a better judge of these things than an individual. You know, you'll take classes, you'll take lots of stuff, all sorts of scientific proof that, you know, social scientific proof that individuals think better than groups. But I'm an Aristotelian, and America, in most politics that I find good, is committed to groups of people thinking better than an individual. We're Aristotelian in that sense, all right? So let's move on down here, and here again he's going back and forth a lot about, you know, the who should rule, you know, and he does these things like this here. Let's go down here. Okay. Now, from what has been said, it is manifest that men are alike and equal. It is neither expedient that one man should be. It is neither expedient nor just that one man should be lord over all. Whether he's anti-monarchy here. Neither should a good man be lord over good men, or a bad man over bad. Nor, you know, this is the great principle of, you know, we shouldn't do this rule of the one, but. He then is going to talk about this idea of the rule of the best man, and it ends the book. And if you're going to have the rule of the best, it's got to be in some sort of perfect state, okay? And so this is I find a very awkward little section here, but having arrived at these conclusions, we now speak to a perfect state, describe how it comes into being and is established. And so we're going to talk next about going into, he'll set the goals of the state. Perfect is probably too strong, but it's that this is where we're going. So we'll come back to that.